The forecast calling it a historic blizzard. That storm may have missed its targets in New York City, but the scene in Boston showing heavy snow and wind blasting that city this morning. Hello everyone, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York, and the snow amounts piling up along the shore as well of the East Coast. ABC's Tom Llamas braving the storm now out on Long Island, joining us now from Mastic. Tom, I see there the snow's let up a little bit, but definitely got a big hit out there.
Dan, good morning. Yeah, more than 2 feet of snow on the ground. Come down here for a second. Let me show you how much snow is here. This is unplowed snow, and you can just see how much of it is coming up right now. And it hasn't stopped. There's still a steady clip. It started on Monday, and we're going into Tuesday afternoon, and it still hasn't stopped here. Many of the homes we've seen today completely snowed in. People are out with the snow plowers. They're out with their snow blowers trying to get out of their front doors, but there really is a ton of snow here. We're out on the east end of Long Island. We moved a little further east from Mastic. We're actually in Farmingville right now in Suffolk. We were on the streets last night, and most people did heed the warnings. They did stay off the streets. Of course, the LIE, which is the main thoroughfare of Long Island, it connects it east to west. That was shut down at 11 o'clock, and it was absolutely deserted. So most people stayed inside. They weren't stuck on the LIE like they were 2 years ago, back in that February blizzard where there were so many cars piled up. That's one of the reasons really why they decided to close down the highways. That and the visibility was almost zero in certain stretches of the highways. Unfortunately, one person did die out here on Long Island in Suffolk County. A teenager was playing with friends last night. He was sledding. His sled went too fast. He lost control and he slammed right into a light pole. So far, that is the only person we've heard that died in this storm, which is very sad for that family, especially at a time like this. Dan?
It is a tragedy, and certainly and that amount of snow that was getting out there out on Long Island there. What about actual travel bans? Have those been lifted? I mean, I know you were pointing out the LIE obviously being shut down, but what about actually traveling on the highways?
Yeah, Governor Cuomo actually lifted all the travel bans throughout all the counties that were affected in New York State by this blizzard, so you can pretty much travel anywhere you want. The problem is you're not going to want to leave your home because the roads, even though some of them have been plowed, some of them have not been. You can see just behind me here all this snow. Now, some of the arteries out of this area where we are right now, which is a commercial center, have been plowed, but a lot of areas haven't. And if you don't have an SUV or four-wheel drive, it's almost going to be impossible to get out. So even though you can travel legally, a lot of people aren't. They're advising people not to leave unless they have to.
Tom, give me it's kind of a geographical sense of how far you are then from New York City, because obviously here in the center of Manhattan, we didn't get the amount of snow that was initially forecast, and some people are saying, gosh, you know what, we might have actually gone out on a limb and said that we were going to get much more than what we should have or that we actually did. But, you know, you're not that far away there, and, you know, you've got a couple of feet of snow there.
Yeah, we're about 2 hours east of New York, and if you're looking at a map, we're directly south of Connecticut. The Long Island Sound separates Connecticut and Long Island. So we're about 2 hours from Manhattan, so we're not very far from you. We just received the brunt of the snowfall. Really, the snowmaker part of that storm just dumped snow all throughout Long Island. There are areas that have more than 2 feet on the North Fork of Long Island, an area there that has up to 26 inches of snow right now. And as I mentioned, it's still falling, Dan, so those numbers are going to go up. It's not coming down as hard. Now what's really happening is the wind. The wind is picking up, so the conditions out here are just miserable. You want to stay home.
All right, well, a good advice right there. And have we heard then if school will be reopening tomorrow? Any of those plans been announced just as of yet?
Yeah, it's still unclear. It's going to go county by county, and it's still unclear. I think they're going to kind of see when the snow actually stops and how much the roads are plowed right now. Today, definitely a great day to close the schools. If the conditions look at all like this tomorrow, there's no way they can keep those schools open.
All right, ABC's Tom Llamas out in Farmingville. Tom, thank you for that. Joining us now from a snowy Boston, Massachusetts. And Rob, I see the snow still coming down there.
Oh, absolutely, and it's coming down sideways, as you can see. At times, visibility really dropping pretty low. This city, for the most part, has been shut down. There's been some people out going to work. Few people actually have to go to work, and of course, people walking their dogs. Dogs love this stuff, right? Who doesn't? They did a really good job of clearing the sidewalks, Dan, out here in full force. And this is one of the main roads here in downtown near Long Wharf, very close to the north end. We're on Atlantic and State Street, and plows have been coming through here and clearing things out. But total, we've got about 16 inches of snowfall, and that of course doesn't include the banks that have been built by these plows and the snow drifts that have been built by the winds that have been blowing at times over 40 miles an hour. So therein lies the definition of a blizzard. Winds over 35 miles an hour, snow blowing, and visibilities at times down to around a quarter of a mile or even less than that. So I know that in New York, they pretty much got skunked by this storm, but what a difference 100, 150 miles makes. It is a full-on blizzard here, and it's been going like this for the last 12 hours, Dan.
Yeah, well, you know, and that was one of the things here in New York. Obviously, we had a lot of heads up and preparation lead time on that to kind of shut down the subways, shut down transit, things like that. How did Boston do? I mean, I know Boston typically gets a little bit more snow, or at least more wintry weather like than what New York does. Were they ready? Were they headed up for this storm?
Yeah, almost definitely. I mean, they were prepared. They knew it was coming, and it is here. So they had, just in Boston alone, 750 plows and trucks, 35,000 tons of salt, which they laid down in the beginning. But, you know, it starts to snow so much, the salt really, that's just for the beginning. They just had the salt laid down so that people could get home yesterday. And now it's a matter of plowing, because temperatures are just under 20 degrees and wind chills are under 0. So it's just brutal, cold out here. But the city's doing okay, I think. You know, I talked to a couple of firefighters, I talked to a couple of plow truck drivers, and right now no major catastrophes here in town. But on the coast, and we had our own little experience with a storm surge here near Boston Harbor. On the coast, we had storm surge last night when high tide came in about 3 or 4 feet, and some of the coastal towns are being pounded by waves, and also seeing some significant flooding in some of the coastal towns. And Nantucket, which had winds gusting of hurricane force there, they've got a problem with coastal flooding too. So this storm has many facets, and eastern Massachusetts is certainly getting it the worst, Dan.
All right, so then lastly, Rob, I ask you about this, because I know here in New York, a lot of people have been kind of looking around saying, we're a little disappointed in the showing here. We went out and bought, 17,000 rolls of toilet paper for what now? How about in Massachusetts, in Boston there? Are they kind of like, I guess, happy with the anticipation?
I think New Englanders are a little more hardy. And first of all, I should say this, toilet paper doesn't go bad, so that's cool. I mean, you can keep that for a long time. But here in Boston, they're hardy because they see a lot of these storms, so it doesn't faze them as much. And yeah, at least the people out here walking their dogs, they've been enjoying it. But we've seen people staying at our hotel, which is about 2 blocks that way, walking to work, because basically downtown and the center of commerce is this way. Guys in suits walking to work because their bosses didn't give them the day off, were nice enough to put them up in a hotel so that they could trudge through this snow to get to work. And then we've seen people walking this way to the hotel to work in the hotel. We're certainly grateful for that, but it's brutal out here. Here comes another plow pretty soon, but it's difficult. We've got over 10,000 power outages, Dan. That certainly is a concern, because especially for those people who have electricity that they need for either electric heat or to spark their furnace, you're talking about no heat on top of the no lights. And this is dangerous cold. So that is one thing that officials, and we are certainly concerned about, the people that have lost power and potentially have no heat, not only for today, but for several days to come before utility crews can get out and safely repair the damage there. So it's ongoing. Blizzard right on through the rest of the day and through tonight, and we'll likely see over 20 inches here in Boston. We've already got 15, 16 inches, and it shows no signs of stopping.
All right, ABC's Rob Marciano on the ground in Boston, Massachusetts. Rob, thank you for that.
You got it, Dan.
You can keep up with the story in real time by downloading the ABC News app. Star the story for exclusive updates on the go as the storm continues here. For now, I'm Dan Kleffler in New York.